Welcome back to another episode of
Cabernet&Chaos.
Cheers.
I don't know why I went like this, but I got in my mind. I'm still drunk, clearly.
Just so you guys know, today we have a special guest, Mrs. the one, the only, the realist, Naomi Natal.
The real locked in, baby.
Locked in. It's so nice to have you. I know you've been wanting to be on the podcast since before we started.
I know. I'm like so grateful I finally made the list.
Since the day we said we're making it, well, why not? I haven't.
No, I think this is such a perfect timing for you to come on.
I wasn't interesting back then. Now I'm interesting.
10 episodes later.
10
weeks later.
She made the cut. She finally made the cut.
I made the cut. It's okay. I'm grateful. I'm humbled. Thank you. Thank you. I wouldn't want to just pass everybody because I'm somebody's mom. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you and my dad were both like, well, when is my episode? When is my
But
episode?
they both
When
have
am I
something
coming up?
going on for themselves, right? So we really wanted to like highlight your dad's activism work and stuff like that. And then right now we had something great just happen for you that just dropped today that we're gonna, get a little exclusive on. Just a little disclaimer, guys. Like if you see us looking down or not at you guys in the camera, it's simply because we're on a call with with our special guest. So just keep that in mind if somebody's like, well, you guys don't look at us.
All the way from Boca Raton.
Clock it.
Right.
So before we even get into what we're here for and what we're going to discuss, give us a little intro of you.
I mean, you should be introducing me.
No, I just did. I said you're the realist. You're the realist on the block, the realist in the city, the realist in the country, the realist in the states.
Okay, all right.
And we're matching. Look at that.
Oh, shit, I didn't realize.
I'm just 99. TQ.
Thug queen.
What?
I said thug queen.
Thug queen. At one point in my life, those days are over.
Yeah.
I grew up. I grew out of it. But it is what it is. Yeah. I'm Naomi, the middle child. Kasha and Monica's middle child. The one that wanted to be like her big brother and the tomboy and, just running the streets, doing the thing. The only girl in the LG,
Let them know.
And that's it, LG, baby. LG. Back in the day. It's just a different time. Like, we grew up. It's like we all grew up together, but our parents all grew up together. So it's not like just people you're meeting in school and you're developing friendships. It's like people that you went to, I went to NCC. I did ballet there. I did daycare there. I remember my brother having to pick me up and walk with me home. We lived on Quesnel and walk ahead of me or make me walk ahead of him and be all mean and bully me the whole way home.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. And on the way home, we're seeing so many people asking us this, that. It's just like family.
Absolutely.
So it's just family. So a lot of people know about me because I was in the paper, the sister of Capone,
Mm-hmm.
So, and it wasn't a great depiction. I went to prison and they reported it. And I've been home now for a little while. And
not even 2 years yet. Not even 2 years.
That reached out to me while I was in prison and was interested in my story and wanted to tell my story. And we connected while I was still incarcerated. And when I came out, I told him about my book. And he was like, well, when you're finished writing your book and you're ready to publish, let's get back together. And we did. And he told his story. And here we are.
So just to let you guys know, she just had an article drop on her today. It's on cbc.ca, front page, Confessions of a Gun Smuggler.
It's so crazy because I never really was even smuggling guns. That is not even really my story. It's how my story ends, but
it's not how it started. Yeah, that's why even like when I was thinking about it, like every time like when I was talking to China about it before, I was like, yeah, Confessions of a Drug Smuggler, And I was like, oh wait, sorry, it's called Confessions of a Gun Smuggler. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we should dive into that, right?
Yeah.
Because you say that's not really your like. It's the story that he put out, right? Based off of the things that you said.
That's what I went to prison for. So that is the story, right?
Okay.
So when this journalist actually found my story, it was because I used to have a wholesale business and I used to import, export clothes and stuff back in the day. Like I would buy clothes and stuff wholesale here and sell it for retail in Montreal. Well, after I got convicted and all this, the government sent me a thing saying that I'm no longer, my privilege of importing and exporting is no longer because of, you know, the whole
you're an import
conviction.
So other things. Okay.
Yeah.
This journalist saw that. So when when he set out, you know, he found me and then he read my motion and he read all the court documents or whatever. And then he reached out to my attorney. My attorney then, I was in prison, reached out to me, asked me if I was interested in speaking to him. And then I got his phone number and email and called him. And then, when you're in prison, you're not a person.
Yeah,
so
your number.
For me, because he's a journalist, I couldn't just add his email and start talking to him and interviewing with him or like having a video visit with him because I could go to the shoot. I had to go through my unit team, you know, and basically like your unit team in prison is like your guardian. Like they're the ones who you got to go through before you go to the warden or whatever. So when I went to my unit team and I was like, hey, I got this reporter, he wants to do my story. And the unit team, the unit manager, she was like, absolutely not. Like this black lady, let me call her out, Miss Jenkins. She was cool when I first got to prison, and then she just turned into a BI. Yeah, so she was like, no or whatever. So then there was a lady that the lady, Miss Allison, the one that's working with Trump doing the pardons, the one that Kim Kardashian helped get out of prison, she was actually in the prison I was in, and she was in the same unit I was in. So girls that have been there for a longer time was there. They were like, that's not true. She was like, you just need to put in your request. So when I went and I spoke to the assistant warden, she was like, oh, you need to put in a request through unit team, and then the warden needs to approve it. And she was like, and you have the journalist put in a request through unit team. So when we did that, we got approved, and then we started communicating like that.
Awesome. So to go into your article, you know, with the thing with journalists, like you could do an interview with them, but at the end of the day, they're going to go back and write the story that they think is the story, right? So just based off of your article and reading it, what in there would you say, like, you know, you would highlight, like, although this is his story, this is what you meant by it? You know, is there certain sections in there that made you feel like, oh, I didn't really say that or whatever?
Well, I think the thing is, because I wrote a book about it and I sent him like my pre-edited, fully edited version, he read that book and he took inserts out of it and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm grateful for it because, you know, I did write a book, but my book is actually true events, but a lot of it's fictionalized, you know, to embellish, to make it a book, to make it a story. So, just certain verbiage, I would say, that he used that, you know, I didn't feel like was my authentic verbiage, but then at the same token, I have to respect that that's his art. That's his story.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? That's his depiction from our interviews and whatever, and that's what he came up with. So, you know, I don't think that he tried to make me look bad or anything like that. I think that he asked questions that he thought people would want to know. And, you know, remember, like, we were on the phone for like an hour and a half. We did a 25-minute video visit when I was in prison. We spoke on the phone a couple of times, and he had to write a one-page article. So imagine how brief he took all that information to make it, like, you know. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't change anything because that's his story. Like, if you want to know my truth. Just listen to my story and read my story. But that's his story based off of what he read in court documents and, what was in newspaper articles and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, just so we can know, when is your book actually dropping?
Well, my book should be on Amazon by the time you post this podcast.
Perfect. So to follow up with that, I just wanted to make sure your book was out before I asked this question. So you said there was some parts that were fictional. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to say the story. So I'll let people read it themselves. But was the last time you were in Kansas City fictional?
She's talking about chapter 9. Where
I don't want to get into it, but was chapter 9, how fictional was chapter 9?
We can give like a little snippet because
I mean, my father really was trying to light my mother on fire, and my mother really shot my father in the stomach.
Yeah.
So obviously I was a kid, right? So that whole verbiage, I'm taking little slots of my memory and rewriting, a story. So obviously it's not verbatim of what happened, but it's my perception. All four of us can watch the same thing, and when we re-say it and we're telling somebody, all four of us is going to have a different perception of what we just witnessed.
Yeah.
So
because I spoke to my uncle about it.
But my father was high, and he was going to try and light my mother on fire, and she did shoot him in the stomach.
Yes.
So,
well, just so if any of you guys were like, where did she get this from? Like this isn't my mom's full book, but if I'll come in, this is her transcript of her book that she started writing while she was in jail. You finished this while you were incarcerated, no? The book that you were done.
Well,
you just came home and
no, I wrote up to chapter like 34.
Oh yeah.
While I was still incarcerated, but my mom passed away, and then I just couldn't really focus on the typewriter the way, and then I was doing a lot of legal work for people, so I worked in the law library, so I was doing a lot of legal work for people, so the time that I did spend in education on the typewriter was writing up motions and helping people get their first step back credits applied so they can get home, get their year off their sentence or their 2 years off their sentence, or helping people with immigration statuses so they don't get deported or they don't, so just different things. So I got really busy in the end. So, but my time that I was writing myself, like I would write it in pen sometimes in my cell if we were locked down or whatever, and then I would go back to, when I'd go to education, I would just type it on the typewriter, but 85% of the time I was sitting on a typewriter, like old school typewriter, like y'all probably don't even know this kind of typewriter.
I actually
with the ribbon and the ribbon.
I actually had one. It's actually crazy. I actually had one before my grandfather passed away.
Oh wow.
He had like this old typewriter that he gave me, and that was my thing. Like I used to go, like the ribbon was like the ink part, and then I would used to go and I would just be there on the typewriter, like just typing stuff. Yeah, I loved it.
Like
I love it.
It was like a little digital, like you could see what you were changing the font to. But
okay, so you had the fancy one. I didn't have the fancy one.
She had the prison one.
That's the fancy one. Because my shit was like my shit looked like a briefcase. It's like you opened it up. Like it's like it was black and you open it up. Like it looks like a briefcase if you close it and then you open it and then that brings out the top and then the typewriter is just there. Like that was just
when the buttons fly up when you type.
Yeah, she had the upgraded one.
This one was probably like more like 2002.
Oh yeah, mine was definitely
like 1980.
Yeah, mine was definitely 1980, 1974. Like this was when my mom was born. This was given like for my dad actually. So my dad was born. This was
Yeah, I think that's dope. The fact that you even wrote a whole. How many chapters do you have?
It's 44 chapters.
32 chapters because you wrote the rest while you came home, but at least over 30 chapters on this damn typewriter. So, and
yeah, absolutely. And then I was sending you guys home 7 chapters at a time.
Yeah. And even it's like, this was on a typewriter because her edits are in pencil. Like anything she needed to edit, like she's scribbling out.
When you're writing, right? When you're writing and you're in your zone and you have something, you're like,
yeah, you're
like,
not.
If I catch a mistake, I'll go back. But like, you can't go back 4 sentences up. So when I get back to my cell and I would read it or whatever, then I'd make my corrections in paper or whatever. So. But once I got home, I just scanned it into Word doc, and then I was able to fix it or whatever. And now it's in the process. I got the final edited version. I'm just going through it before I finalize it so we can put it in print. So it's ready. My book's ready. It's just.
You heard that, guys? It's ready.
It's ready.
The book is ready.
Support your girl.
Oh,
I know you guys want to know my story. And it's fun.
It is.
I've read it over and over because I gotta keep editing, but it's funny. I think I did a good job.
You did great.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because you're my mom.
Maybe.
And I had a little fan. So when I first went to prison, I started writing my book, but I was writing it as I was in prison. Like I was writing my prison experiences, and the different stories that was happening while I was incarcerated or whatever. And then I stopped. Like when I got to prison is like, county is, it's what you call open bay. So there's just a bunch of bunk beds and cubicles. Everybody shares a bathroom.
That's like
there's
Orange is the New
single
Black.
stall showers.
Okay, I was thinking.
That's like
But-
Pause. Orange is the New Black. Is that the one that was in New York?
I think Orange is the New Black took place in Connecticut.
Okay.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
it was at
Litchfield?
the Danbury camp.
Danbury camp, yeah.
At the camp, the SPC, which
that's
is a
where one of
camp,
the
which is
housewives
where
was at.
the people could still leave prison and drive,
Yeah.
go and buy groceries, or when I got released, it was the prisoners from the camp that drove me to the bus stop.
What the hell?
What the hell?
Well, in Orange is the New Black, right? There's the
Yes.
driver,
Oh,
There's,
okay.
the
Yeah, 'cause
Italian
that takes
one.
place at a
Oh,
camp,
wow.
which is a low. I
Yeah.
was behind the fence.
Yeah.
We didn't get to leave.
Damn.
So in this article that he writes about you, he touches base on a lot of different things. And there's a quote when you said, I was smart enough to know what I was doing, but dumb enough to do it anyway. Can you just unpack that for us? Just let us know what was going through your mind.
I don't even really think that was my direct words that
Okay.
I used, but in a sense, I was just saying because the whole time I never did guns. We never did guns because it's a trail. It's a paper trail, and unfortunately I had somebody that was telling me, oh, don't worry, it's going to be this, don't worry, doing this, go and do that. Even with where they talk about oh, the guns are found with no serial numbers. I don't know nothing about that. But the person that I was working with was giving me false promises,
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, I knew I was taking a risk, but I put the risk below the reward.
Mm-hmm.
I was only thinking about the reward.
Mhm.
You have bills, you have kids, you got I was in my thought process. I couldn't go get a job because I got a 3-year-old baby who's gonna watch her. And if I do go get a job, I gotta put her in daycare, and then they want $400, $500, $600
A week.
What?
So how
A
am I
week.
gonna pay my rent, put my baby in daycare, go to work? It's just, and then I go back to what I know, So I just should have stuck to what I knew, and we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and my story was already pre-written.
Absolutely.
So, I was just telling Shalina that I remember my mom used to tell me about when she went to Alabama as a child with her grandmother. And that was the first time she saw a white-only water fountain, And I was like, it's crazy because when I sit back and I think, obviously, I'm go back in time, and I'm writing. I'm in the middle of writing my second book because it's actually a trilogy, and I'm thinking back to stories or whatever, and I'm like, wow, something with the universe, because my sister who was incarcerated, everybody knows, when at the end of her sentence, she did 4 years and some months. At the end of her sentence, she went to Aliceville, Alabama, the same prison that I ended up at years later. So my sister went there. Then I went there. And then my mom, because she was sick and she was in the doctor, was like, you need to do the things you want to do. And she's like, I want to go see my daughter. And my daughter made it happen for
What
my
daughter?
mother to come see me. And my sister and my younger sister took my mother. So for some reason, the universe brought all of Monica and her girls to Alabama at some point. And not just Alabama, like Aliceville, Alabama. And then like the stories of the people that were native that would come into that prison, they were like, oh, that was an old native graveyard. Oh. So like, you know, we have native heritage and everything. So like, I'm just that spiritually connected. I'm like, oh, what a bomba clock. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I don't know the answer, right? I just know the energy. Something at some point, we needed to go there for some reason. Our energy, our spirit, whatever, it needed to be in Alabama at some point. So I was just like, it's crazy. So, and apparently her grandmother's roots were from Alabama.
Yeah, she always said that.
So just a crazy little, you know, we don't know why things happen. We just know that there's a purpose behind it. And for some reason, I just feel like there was some connection. And if incarceration was the only way to get us there, because I know I wasn't going no more like Alabama for nothing. There ain't nothing in Alabama.
It brought you there one way or another.
There's nothing on my bucket list where I was like, you know what, I want to go to Alabama and see.
Facts.
Like, you know, like you want to go to Texas, you know, you want to go to the Grand Canyon. You know, there's different places that you want to go see.
No one's going to Alabama.
Yeah. Like,
I know Aliceville.
It sounds redneck.
You know,
I didn't even know what Aliceville is. Like,
you know, but well, you want to go to Alabama to go see the sunsets?
Yeah. And it's crazy because even the Black people that are in Aliceville, like, I guess I didn't really experience them, but the ones like that were like the correctional officers, I feel like were the most racist.
Everybody was related.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. There's this one family, the Johnsons.
It's always the Johnsons. It's always the Johnsons.
Thank God it wasn't the
Jacksons. Listen. There was a brother, 3 sisters, and I think the other sister went to a male's facility. But the brother worked there. One of the sisters was lieutenant. The other 2 sisters were officers. And let me tell you.
Are these big jails?
I was cool with like 3 of them. The one of them, she didn't like me. But the other 3 were cool.
China just asked, were these big jails?
It was not jail, it's prison.
Well, was it a big prison?
Yeah, so it had, my prison had 3 buildings, 3 unit houses. So A, B, and C. Unit A, Unit B, Unit C. Each unit had 4 unit housings. Each unit housing held up to 200 inmates.
Bomboclad.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and amongst all that, I was respected, you know what I'm saying, by the guards and the inmates. Like, when I got released, because it was like they closed the compound, right? So when I got released and I'm walking with my bag, like to the gate, and this is something I used to look out my window, and I used to be like, yo, I'm walking through that gate. I'm walking through that gate. Yeah. I'm walking through that gate. So I'm like, now that, because I was at education at work, so they're calling me. They're like, yo, where's she at? Where's she at? So then after they come in, they're like, yo, you need to go. And I'm like, what? So everybody's like, bye, Naomi, bye, Naomi. So I get to the unit. Everybody's like, yo, they've been calling you. Like, where you at? I was like, yo, I went to education. I ain't sitting in my cell. Like, what do you need? You know? So then after I get my little duffel bag, you know, I have it. I can show you guys. But I got my little duffel bag with my little legal work and shit, you know. I gave everything away. I came home with my watch, you know, and the clothes that I had. My daughter sent me some clothes for me to change into, so I wasn't wearing prison grays on the bus, but, you know.
Not my mama.
I was fresh in my white Nike outfit from head to toe. I remember I put my hoodie on, and I came out the changing room with my hoodie on. And Miss Jackson, this little bald-headed bitch, take that hood out. Take that hoodie out. I said, Miss Jackson, I freeze now. I don't got to listen to you. I
would have said the same shit. Like, bitch, I'm free. I'm free.
I am no longer the property of the BOP. I am Naomi Haynes once again. Where's my ride? I'm ready to go. you know. So, but yeah, when I got my stuff and I'm walking out, the girls are beating on the windows like, boom, 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 boom. Like I wanted to cry. I think I did cry because the love that was like people
right.
were like,
My
oh
whole
my God,
body
what
just
did we get
shivered.
to? I'm like, don't worry, I got my email. I'm still gonna help you. They're like, please don't forget about us. It was a very good feeling to leave and to know that you were loved by so many people. You know.
Just her whole way home, people were calling me, did she make it yet? Did you hear from her yet? Like, girl, call me back later.
Did you know when you were getting released? Like, did you know the date, or you just knew like?
Yes.
Okay, so you knew that day that you were getting released. You just didn't know
So
what time.
Basically, Trump passed the First Step Act in 2018. So the First Step Act basically, if you program and take successful classes and stuff like that, you get time off your sentence. So I was supposed to have a year off my sentence, which should have gave me immediate release, but because I was Canadian, they're like, oh, you're an immigrant, you don't get it. And I'm like, what?
Oh, wow.
So I was like, where does it say that in the verbiage of the law? So I ended up writing a motion. I wrote this same motion for a lot of different immigrants to help them get their First Step Act credit. So I ended up writing a motion. While my motion was in the court, my case manager, she came to my door during lockdown and she's like, Haynes. And I stood up and she passed me a piece of paper through the door. And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, your halfway house date. So I'm like, what? So when I got my halfway house date, when we got off of lockdown, I went to go see her or whatever. And she was like, yeah, she's like, I just need you to, I need like, you know, someone to sign for you or whatever. She was like, do you have somewhere to stay? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So I called my best friend and I was like, look, they gonna release me, but I need to get them an address. Can I give you your address? And she was like, yo, for sure. She's like, I gotta talk to my husband, but you already know you're good. Like, you know? So, and then I told my son and my son was like, yo, mom, I got you a job. You get home, I got you a job. So I was like, all right. I'm like, you ain't lying now.
I got a job. What's the job? Let's put that first.
He's like, yo, mom, no, the construction company where I work at, they need somebody. He's like, I got you. So he gave me the information of the owner of the company and everything. And then I got my friend's information. I gave it to my case manager. And I got released on January 23rd. Took a bus to Fort Lauderdale. My son picked me up, brought me to the halfway house. They put an ankle monitor on, and my friend's husband picked me up, and I stayed with her. Started working a week later, and
here we are.
I got my own place now.
On our own car.
My girls, you know.
That's right.
So I have a question. So in the article, I just want to quote, they say, here is an unusual story. She's a vegan, millennial, Jamaican Canadian political science grad in South Florida who supports Trump, became a grandmother, and wound up in the international conspiracy. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I guess talking to him, right? And that's how his brief of who I am. And I didn't eat meat, you know. I went through my whole prison. He was like, what did you eat? And I was like, well, I had to be creative, you know, because I didn't eat meat in prison, you know, and they just give you peanut butter.
Yeah.
So, you know, peanut butter bologna cheese sandwich for lunch, and especially during COVID, I mean, it was horrible. Yeah. So, I mean, I think he was shocked when I said that, you know, it's not so much like I support Trump, like, you know,
that's the part that threw me off.
Yeah.
But
well, it's not
exactly.
So much. I don't want to like. It's not so much that I support Trump's, but I respect him because at the end of the day, that nigga is telling you what it is. He's telling you what he's doing. He's telling you what he is. Like nobody's shocked. You know what I'm saying? When you hear something about him, you're like, you're not shocked. I don't agree with everything that he's doing. Like. The whole thing of them deporting these ladies, like, they've been here 45 years, no problems, like, I can understand the people who are here and getting DUIs and getting in trouble and in and out of prison. I get it. Go back to your fucking country. You ain't here benefiting. But the people who are going to work and trying to better themselves and been here and like, I don't agree with that shit. But I mean, he's a straight shooter. If it wasn't for him, I would probably just be now getting out of prison. Because he's the only with the First Step Act sat on Obama's desk for 8 years.
Yeah.
Trump signed that in 2018. And I know everybody's like, yeah, because he's a felon or whatever the case may be. But the system is so corrupt. Like, I used the system for my benefit when I was doing what I was doing because I already knew, you know what? Okay, I need to work with people with that white privilege card. I need to take that off the top and make sure I ain't doing nothing because if I get draw down, let them keep me for all 3 to 5 hours digging me up. It's fine because the white privilege card just drove by.
Mm-hmm.
So what's up? Like they're gonna get through, but I know that.
Mm-hmm.
So I dealt accordingly. Trump, okay, he racist. You don't like this. You don't like that. You don't do this or whatever the case may be. But you know it though.
Yeah, he shows you who he is. He
Thank
doesn't
you.
So I
bullshit.
respect
That's the
that.
thing.
You know what I'm saying? There's so many presidents that have done so many things and nobody knows because the media is not portraying it. The media is not putting it out there, so we didn't know. They're telling us one thing and they're doing another. They're telling us what they think we want to know, but in reality, they're doing what the fuck their agenda is saying. Yeah. Trump is telling us the agenda. Trump told us, I'm going to deport all the motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I'm going to, like, he said he's doing everything he said, so I respect that. And he's still helping people right now. Like, imagine he pardoned the guy, and now the guy works for the BOP. Everybody's mad, but it's like, who's better to work there than somebody who's been through it on the other side?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? So, I respect him. I mean, I don't agree with everything that he does. Like, I didn't vote for him. I can't vote.
I would have if I could.
I'm entitled to my opinion. And then at the end of the day, he's a real ass nigga. And I'm the realist. And I'm going to go recognize real.
I know that's right.
And I respect him for keeping it real. So, they hate me or love me. Like, people are like, it's like, when people write stuff about Trump, I'm like, are you shocked? Like, the whole thing he just said with Iran and Israel. Like, he was like, yeah, I'm upset with Iran, but I'm not happy with Israel. They've been fighting for so long, they don't even know what the fuck they fighting about. They want to impeach him for that. But it's a fact.
It is.
Like, the man just gave some truth. The man just put the truth out there. Mm-hmm. And now you guys want to impeach him. Why? It's true. It's true. Y'all been fighting for so long, you don't even know what the fuck you're fighting for right now. Y'all blowing up. Like,
what's the issue?
Like, what is the issue? Yeah. Like, what is the real problem?
Yeah.
If he would have left it at Iran, nobody would care. But because he said, either does Israel. He was like, yo, Iran don't know what they're doing. And he's like, and I'm mad with Israel too.
Because they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
They really don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? And this is why I fucks with him. Because he's keeping it real.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sorry to all the people who hate Trump, but I don't hate anybody.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even gonna lie. I asked that question mostly because obviously we're Canadian, we're affected, but we don't look into it that much, right? Because we're not technically living in it.
Yeah.
But then, like, I've seen a lot of, like, Black people say, hey, I support Trump. And my question always is, because I don't understand a lot of the things, right? Because I don't look into it like that. Yeah. It's not, like, it's my problem, but it's not really my problem, So I always ask, when I see someone, especially someone of color, say, hey, I voted for Trump, I see the different reasons, and like, yeah, everyone hates him. I get it, but you guys have to look deeper than the foolishness. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And like you said, like, he is a realist. He says he's done the shit he says he's done, whether it's good or bad.
He did what he said he was
exactly. Like you said, it's not a shock. Yes, of course, everyone wanted Kamala because she's Black, you know what I mean? I get why, but then was it gonna be another situation with Obama, like where he had a lot of time to do certain things and he just never did? Like, what did you really do?
Obama definitely didn't do nothing for Black people. He definitely did more for the gays. So that should tell you enough.
Here's a fun fact, right? So the media is always going to depict how they want the masses to believe.
Propaganda.
Right? They're going to depict they're going to depict it how they want you to run the story, right? So even with Trump's statement of when Kamala was saying she was black and she was Jamaican, he's like, "Oh, she's black? I thought she was Indian." They took that and they were like, "He's a racist. But I was like, "Nah, I remember when she said that. I remember when she said she was Indian. She didn't say I was black Indian. She didn't say I was East Indian and what, you know, the other. And she didn't say, she claimed Indian. But now you're running for vice president, and now you black. Now you
and you talking like you from the park. Like, come on.
Now you black, now you Jamaican, now you all these things. But what you ain't saying, honey, is when you were a prosecutor, you were giving black men football years.
Yeah, for drug
charges. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about how many men and women you put in prison for lots of years for drugs. You know, in prison in the States, what's crazy is like and for women, you know, when you hear a woman and she's like, you're like, "Oh, how much time did you get?" And they're like 30 years. You're like, "Oh shit." There's only two things you get 30 years for. Either drugs or you're a pedophile. Why is a drug dealer up there with a pedophile?
Absolutely.
I don't get it.
Why isn't it a pedophile and a murderer or something? Why is it drugs and like there was this one little white girl, she was like, she got 30 years and she was like telling people like, "Oh, she was like this drug case or whatever." And I never, but Shalina will tell you, I never not once call home and say, "Look this person up."
Never.
Because I don't care. I don't care why you're there. I don't care if you're a snitch. I don't care if you're a cho. That's what they call child molesters, chomos.
Cho?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you're there for. Because I'm there to do my time because I'm making sure my time wasn't doing me. I had this one girl, she was like, "Oh, when are you going home?" I'm like, "Any day." So then like after like 3 months, she was like something about, "When are you going home?" I'm like, "Any day." She's like, "Girl, you've been saying that since I got here." And I was like, "And I'm claiming it." Okay, so at any day, at any time of the day, they can say, "Naomi Hayes report to R&D." Bitch, just know I'm going home. Okay.
Trust me.
So I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, like there's people that's like, oh, when you go home, they're like 2038." You're like, you know, they're like 2045. You're like,
yeah.
That is so crazy to say when you're going home and they say 2045. I'm not saying that out loud, fam.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that out loud.
but her thing was when they first gave you a deal or what they offered you was what?
It was like he brought out sentencing guideline and he was like showing me what my guideline range was, and then he was like, "Yeah, you're looking at like 33 years." 33 what? 33 who? You didn't catch me with nothing. You didn't catch me with nothing.
Yeah.
You didn't catch me with nothing. I thought possession was 9/10 of the law.
Fuck. 33 is crazy.
33 years and
What
you didn't
the
get
hell?
caught with nothing.
Not only that, you didn't catch me with nothing, and the person who you got that did get caught with stuff never gave my name.
Mm-hmm.
So what is like?
Shout out to you, girl.
33. So I was like, trial, taking it to trial.
That's crazy.
No, trial. No. So that's why I ended up sitting in county for like 2 years.
Yeah. You talk about using the white privilege and stuff like that, and they do mention that in your article where you highlight that, you know, the privilege of being white, that you would hire white men and females to go do your runs for you. Can you give us a little insight on that?
Well, you know, when you do things, you learn things, right? So through me doing things, I learned that yes, even though I'm a pretty girl and I'm articulate and everything, I'm still the wrong color. I still have a higher probability to get pulled over. So during this time of me running, I was also in school, getting my criminal justice major, right? So while I'm in school, being a criminal, I'm learning about criminals. And I'm learning and I'm like, the probability, the reason why there's more blacks and browns in prison is because of racism.
Mm-hmm.
So statistically, it's not because we commit more crimes. It's just that we get racially profiled,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I took that and I was like, okay, let me be racially profiled, but the person who got the goods, not. So that way, I mean, I was doing this for, not, all the time, like, this obviously, but I only got caught because I started messing with guns in 2019. I've been doing this since 1999, 1998. So, it's like I've been getting through since 1998, like December 1998, 1999. I've been getting through, right? Till 2019. So I had a good stretch.
Yes, you did.
But that's how you know you're the realest, because you know what comes with this, So
Yeah, and I had a good team in place at one point. It's not just it wasn't just about me. I had good drivers who knew they were white privileged, but still, even though they're white privileged, they attuned to the rules of the road so they wouldn't get pulled over. Even though you're white privileged, you don't want to get pulled over. So you don't want a cocky white privileged person, because I went through that experience where, you're cocky because you always get through. But why even let them draw attention to you?
Absolutely.
So you have to be, you still, I vetted my people well, so. And I never had people like, I didn't know, my right hand didn't know what my left hand was doing. Like the girl that got caught with all those things, she didn't know what she was carrying until they fucking found it. So yes, she got to go home and she got to do this, but it's because she didn't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're questioning, like, that's one thing I learned too about being a criminal justice major, was that they're learned to pay attention to your body language. Mm-hmm. They're learned to see if you're lying, if you're telling the truth. So imagine the shock in her mind. She's probably thinking it's drugs, right? Because she's been doing stuff for a minute, right? So in her mind, she's probably thinking, oh, she's moving drugs. Imagine the shock on her face when they show her guns. Right there, that helped her.
Mm-hmm. Because they read that. They read how she reacted when they told her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got to remember, she didn't get caught on the American side. She got caught on the Canadian side. And she white and she Canadian. They let her go home. She went home. She got caught at the Champlain border with 20 guns and a silencer, and they kept her truck and the guns, and they let her go home that same night.
And out of everybody, she did the less time, the least amount of time.
No, I don't know if she actually did prison time, but the snitch, the person that set up Mac, he did the less time because he only got probation. And his wife got probation.
Yes.
So they did the least time,
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about them.
Yeah.
They do talk about me in the article. Do you want to shed light on that for people that read it and might get things misconstrued?
Yeah, well, see, the situation that happened with you, unfortunately, is, your mother made a poor choice of doing business with your boyfriend at the time. And, when they caught her compartment, there was tools in that compartment that led back to his circle. Mm-hmm. And one of the people in his circle was the guy that set him up. Mm-hmm. So that whole time, they got caught, they got that load. That's when they started building the case and trickling it back. Mm-hmm. So, when I guess Mac had you go meet the guy and give him some money or whatever, because Mac was smart in a sense where he didn't actually have a phone, a line connected to his phone. He only talked on Wi-Fi voice or whatever, or what is it?
FaceTime.
Audio.
Mm-hmm.
FaceTime
audio.
iMessage audio.
Yeah.
He would only talk on iMessage audio. So whatever recording system they had on the guy's phone couldn't record the conversation with him. Mm-hmm. So they put a recording in the car. Mm-hmm. So when you went to go meet him to give him the money or whatever conversation that, he tried to entrap you in, when they got me, when I went to go meet with the police or whatever, he was trying to like use you as a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was trying to like basically tell me, because even though she didn't give my name, she did give a name, and I'm not gonna bring that person up because that person is irrelevant. But during that time, me and my driver, we separated. Like, we weren't talking. So she didn't even know I was involved. She thought she was working for somebody else. The somebody else she thought she was working for was the person who got me involved with firearms in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So when she got caught, she gave that person. So now when I go with the police or with the ATF agent, and we're in the thing, and he's like basically telling me that he got my daughter and all this stuff. I'm like, my daughter's not involved in anything. He's like, oh, we have her on recording where she's discussing the guns and this and that. I'm like, that's not possible. And he's like, I'm telling you, I'm like, you're gonna have to let me listen to that recording, because one thing certain and two things for sure, I know that my daughter's not involved in anything I was doing. My daughter has been an A student. I said she'd been working since she was 14 years old. She's been working McDonald's. She's always had a job. She pays her own bills. She takes care of herself. She does not, my daughter is not in that lifestyle. I said she may have made the choice of dating the wrong type of men, but it's probably because I led a bad example. You know, it is what it is at the end of the day. But that's the only thing that she's guilty of. But he tried to use my daughter as a pawn, and you know, and somebody else as a pawn for me to like choose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who was I gonna save? Because I had to save somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I play chess.
And
my mother taught me how to play chess. My brother was a chess champion, like that I always tried to beat. I play chess. Okay, if my pawn don't have another move and you want to eat my king, well, guess what? I'll checkmate myself before I let you checkmate me. So with that being said, at the end of the day, if I gave up anybody, the people that would have been hurt were my children.
Mm-hmm.
So I ate that. When they say like, oh, she just took it, I took it, because here I am, he's telling me this about my daughter, and then he's telling me something else about somebody else, and he's like, yeah, we have video of this person doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm listening to him, and then I know right there he's lying, because that person wasn't even there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me you have that person on video doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I know it wasn't that person because I was the one there. And I was wearing a summer dress. So I know you didn't think it was a nigga because I was wearing a summer dress. So you confirmed there's no video,
mm-hmm.
because if there was a video, you would have saw that it was me there.
Yeah.
So, but at the same token, I'm not going to juggle between my daughters.
Yeah.
I'm going to save my children. I'm going to eat that. You know, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give up any. The feds don't play fair. They didn't care if it was even people to do with my case.
They just wanted
give me anybody.
Mm-hmm. That's what they were doing to me. It was at a point where, you know, after like everything happened and they started harassing me, you know, and he would call me at work telling me I need to leave work to come talk to him and do all these stuff. And I was pregnant, you know, and it got to a point where I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to tell him to arrest me. And I got dressed up. I did my hair real cute. I was like, this is a cute mugshot right here, you know, skills. And I went in there and he's like asking me, I said, look, I'm not telling you nothing, fam. So arrest me because you're stressing me out and I'm pregnant, you know? And he's like, no, da, 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 da. I just want to know this. And I was like, I have nothing for you. So please arrest me now because you're stressing me the fuck out, you know? And he was like, no, you're good.
He didn't want to arrest her because he wanted to use her as a pawn.
Yeah.
You know, because this is before they arrested me when she went and met with him, you know? So, the thing is, when everything went down and Shalina called me and was like, yo, they got Mac and the ATF agent asked for you. Like, you know what I'm saying? She's like, yo, they asked for you. As a mother, I'm not going to be like, yo, you and your brother pack up and come to Montreal. No. I came and I took care of my responsibility. I made sure my kids were good. Mm-hmm. You know? And I'm not going to live my life on the run and looking over my shoulder and all this stuff to see if they have a strong enough case to come get me, if they're working with the Canadians to try and come get me. I'm not going to do that. Like, at the end of the day, step one is I took accountability. I did what I did. I was involved what I was involved in. You went to school to be agent or whatever, right? You did your rankings or whatever. That's what the problem is with the federal government. Hoover made a law because he couldn't get Italians. So what did he do? He came up with the RICO Act just so he could arrest Italians because he couldn't get them. They were too smart, too slick. Instead of him trying to get them the right way, he came up with a whole law. That's what the feds do. They don't play fair. Mm-hmm. There's no honor. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? They were like, okay, we got her daughter, and we want this person. Mm-hmm. So in order for her to give us this person, we're gonna attack her daughter.
Yeah. And then at the end, they tried, like when they got you, they tried to get me through Malachi. So
yeah.
So yeah.
And I was like, nah, man. I was like, mommy. I was like, yo, call your grandmother and tell her you need to go on a road trip.
No, you didn't even say road trip. You said call your grandmother, tell her you want to go visit that spot that we went to last summer.
Yeah. Whatever I had to say, because when I went to court, I saw and they were like, they must have said my daughter 3 times. They said, okay. I see what they on. I got back to that county and they put me in the cell with all the people, the incoming people, and they have a free payphone where you don't have to put in your prison number to make a call. I got on that free phone call and I was like, and I said whatever I said to Shalina. When I tried to call her back, the phone did not work.
I'll play that shit.
SIM card cut. It's done.
Not me. But you didn't hear from me for a few days, and then when you did, I was safe.
Well, because you know what, you're not gonna incarcerate my pregnant daughter and use her as a pawn. In your game, like it's a game to you that you're trying to win. At the end of the day, it's a conviction. It's a win. Like we're not people to them. They don't care about our backstory. They don't care. Like I met so many people. Like I met this one girl. She was smoking meth since she was 12 years old, but she was raised in a home where her mother made meth and her mother smoked meth and her mother did, like, you know what I'm saying? Her mother let her marry a soldier at 14 to get money. Like, so when I say the root is poison or the root is corrupted, it's because our choices, our values, our outlook, everything comes from the root, right? It comes from our experiences, comes from the things that we had to endure. So when I'm here now, I'm like, what the fuck, bitch, you smoking meth at 12? That's judgy for me because guess what? I wasn't in her shoes. Maybe that's how she escaped the reality of her mother being on meth. You know what I'm saying? And here she is now, got a 15, like almost a 16-year sentence for what? Meth. And now it sobered her mom up. Her mom's clean. Her mom's bringing her kids to see her and everything. But it's like, it's only now that she's in prison and she can sit back and she was like, wow, I had a fucked up life. Like, wow, like this, because, we take these different trauma classes and we talk amongst our peers. So I have a story, you have a story, everybody has a story, and we don't know what everybody's story is, but their choices are because of what they experience, and it's just a sad truth. Like the majority of the women that are child molesters in prison, either they were molested themselves or they have like really low, they're like, they'll do anything for a man's attention. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's this one girl, and I was like, she goofy as fuck, a big old black girl, but she's so smart, 7 languages. She was talking Korean to the Koreans. She was talking Spanish. She was talking Portuguese. Like she's so like talented. And then I'm like, people see me, whenever people see me talking to people because I'm so nice, and I'm like talking to her, and I'm like, yeah, and then she's like telling me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm from Quebec. She's like, oh, parlez vous français? I'm like, yeah, I'm petit peu. Like, and like, people are like, yo, you know what she's here for? And I'm like, no. And they're like, yo, she owned a daycare, man. They were raping the kids. I'm like, what? Oh, she's slow. She's slow. But it's like,
wait, hold on.
Pause.
Rewind. You said she had a daycare and she was raping the kids in the daycare?
She was letting her husband
rape them.
Oh, okay.
But she was doing it too. Listen, there's these girls in there. There were, I can't remember. They gave them a name, but there was 3 different girls. They're from Virginia area, so or Washington. I think they're automatically, if you commit a crime in Washington, it goes to the feds. So they're like from Washington or something. But all three of them met some guy on Facebook and all this stuff, and the guy was like, "Oh, he's gonna pay them for their pictures or whatever." And they go like, and all three of these girls don't know each other. So three separate girls, right? So they go to hotels, they take sexy pictures of their vaginas or whatever, and he send it, and they give them $500 or whatever. But all three of these girls have kids, and he was like, "Oh, if you want to make some real money, like take a picture of you, going down on your daughter or doing this with your son and all this stuff." And these girls did it and sent him the pictures, and it ended up, I don't know how it got exposed, but yeah, they each got like 20 years or whatever, child pornography or whatever, but they did it to their own child.
Naughty girl them.
Of course.
I love Law and Order SVU. It's like one of my favorite things, as we were just talking about, obviously some of the crazy things that you hear while you were inside. Is there any story or anything, obviously not naming names, but or is there anything that influenced you in a positive way where you heard damn, either I really got it easy, this ain't shit, you know what I mean? Or is there anything that you want to shed a light on any stories that you heard of that might help other people or just entertain people's...
Well, I think that because when everything that happened was going on, so I was always spiritual. I was always, prayed up and everything, and into God and everything, but I was never religious, because I just felt like religion was so judgy and kept you in a box, and I'm just not a type of box person. So I was already spiritual, but my first year incarcerated, where I was at in Pompano, Paul Ryan, the officers, they were sheriffs or whatever, deputies or whatever in there, and in Broward, and they were bitches. I was in silence camp. You couldn't even, we had this one lady, and she was so pretty. I'm like, why is she such a fucking bitch? Black lady or whatever, Miss Glasgow. And she was like the silence police. She was it was an open bay, so we had cubbies, and in the cubbies there was 3 beds, a bunk bed and a single bed, and your lockers or whatever underneath your beds or whatever. But she was like, if I can hear you from my desk, you're too loud. And it's mind you, there's 200 girls in this pod. We're all talking. She wouldn't let us out of our pods to use the phones, watch TVs. She tried to not let me do video visits, but I was blessed enough where my daughter's father, she was just my youngest daughter, she was just starting school, so he would set up a video visit with me early in the morning so I could watch her get on the school bus or watch her go to school or whatever. And she was trying to deny me. She's like, the floor is not open. I was like, okay, but they paid for this visit. It's not for free, and it's scheduled. And the captain said, as long as it's scheduled. And she tried to not let me have my visits, and I was like, look, Miss Glasgow, I don't want to have to put it in a remedy. A remedy is basically when you go higher above the officer to make a complaint. I don't want to have to put in a remedy just for something it's for my daughter. So she would allow me to go, but I would be on the visit and I'll be talking or whatever, and you can't hear we're talking, and it's all sudden she's like, Haynes, bitch, I'm on a visit, I'm on the phone, I'm
yeah,
talking, so just things like that. But I was so grateful because my second year we got this Spanish lady. Her name was Miss Leon, and she was a Christian lady, but she didn't throw her Christianity on you. She just was just she was just, in her demeanor was very spiritual. So during the time when she became our officer, it was COVID, so we got locked down and we couldn't call our family as much and whatever. And she would print up spiritual motivational stuff or whatever. She would just do different stuff. And during that time, it's hard because it's oh my God, what's going on in the world? My family's here, my son is here, my daughter's here, I gotta get out of here, and she just was she really made me realize yo, God got you. Trust the process. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. pray for clarity, pray for that. Like, she had me like, where like this one girl was like, bitch, stop acting like you happy. You ain't happy. I was like, let me tell you something, girl. I will be happy. It doesn't matter. In the darkest hole, I will be that light. Mm-hmm. Hate me or love me. It doesn't matter. In the darkest hole, I will be that light. I'm not going to let prison do me. Like, I'm not, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to do that time. So then we started, like, a whole workout group. I would get up early in the morning, and we weren't allowed outside, but it was, like, a gym area, but it had, like, fenced windows. So, like, rain would come in, and you'd have fresh air, but you just couldn't, like, see it. You know, because it was like all fenced in, it was up high or whatever. But I would get up every morning and sweep and mop the rec yard. And I had like maybe 10, 15 girls. We would work out every day, 5 days a week. And she would allow us, even though it was COVID, she was like, be spaced out. And other officers would literally keep us in our cells because they didn't want to deal with us. She would like, no, you guys need your fresh air. She was just very, very spiritual and like, going through the experience I was going through during that time and seeing somebody like that and just like leaving, like when her mother was passing away, or her grandmother, I think it was her grandmother, someone was passing away, and she was like, you know, she's like, Naomi, I'm a Christian. She's going to heaven. She's like, all we're going to do is prepare for her passage. Like, we're happy. We're going to enjoy the memory. Like, nothing was negative because she was so trusting in God. Mm-hmm. You know, so I prayed for that. I prayed to not worry or stress or whatever, and like really have that underlining faith of letting go and letting God, you know. And I think like that was the most powerful thing I could take home with me, because like even with the passage of my mom, which was the hardest part for me in prison, like I knew that there was a greater purpose why I'm not there. You know, there's something greater going on besides my own selfishness of wanting to be there for my mom. And in that moment, I had to just reflect and like bask in gratitude, because I mean, for me, here I am, this girl that, you know, had a child at 15 in the hood and was like chastised and looked down upon and kicked out and all this stuff, but then still had such a strong supportive system that I was able to, you know, move to the States and go to school and do all these things and get my daughter to Florida and everything like that, you know. And I'm like, now I'm here, and I couldn't have done that without my mother, because she's the one who took care of my child, you know, and allowed me to leave her to go and pursue my dream, you know, my want, my desire. And she's suffering and I'm not here. And during that time when I was pregnant, like I wanted to kill myself. I wasn't a planned pregnancy. I wasn't like 16 and pregnant and proud. You know what I'm saying? I was like hiding it, and like, you know, I'm like, oh, everybody's gonna think this, everybody's gonna think that. My father kicked me out, and my grandmother, I was like, I felt like so ashamed and everything. And my grandmother, we're in the kitchen, she's like, Naomi, you ain't the first teenager to get pregnant, and you won't be the last. She's like, what you need to worry about is what kind of mother you're gonna be to that child. That's what you need to worry. And your father and your mother are gonna forgive you. Just give it time, you know. And I had to sit back in prison and I had to laugh. I was like, you know what, God? I'm never going to question you. I'm never going to ask you why again. I'm never going to question you. I'm never going to try, and I'm just going to go with the flow, because if my daughter was not born and she was born, she wouldn't have been capable and able to be and do the things that she did for my mother and father in their last years. Like, not saying that it's something I couldn't do, right? But it's something I couldn't do because I was incarcerated. But this seed of mine, like, this is me. This is a part of me, is there in my absence, and she's doing a better job than I could even imagine.
She did her big one. She did her big one.
It's not even like with the funerals and stuff. I'm like, being there, like people don't like, you know, a lot of people don't know what empathy is and stuff like that. But for somebody to empathize with somebody and put themselves on the back burner and their feelings on the back burner and their wants and their purchases and their whatever desires on the back burner to put someone before them.
You guys make me
Says a
teary.
lot
I
because
I don't want to cry.
Like I'm here just like
I'm
I'm here listening, but I'm
like,
low-key thinking there's
like
something I
a
would say because I
I'm
can't.
just saying, like, at the end of the day, that's my mother and father. That's her grandparents. That was my mom and dad. You know what I'm saying? But I had to, like, imagine I'm in a jail cell, and, you know, I can talk about this now because I'm free and everything, but during that time, like, there was never cell phones in the prison I was in. The whole time, like, the people who've been in that prison since the day that prison opened, and my sister Tara was one of the first people in that prison when it opened back in 2013. I think she went there in 2014. There was never cell phones. But when my mother was going through her chemo and all that, guess what? I knew people and they had cell phones and they're like, yo, go on easy. And I was on WhatsApp with my mom in my jail cell. Like, Shalina can tell you, I showed Shalina what my cell looked like. I showed Shalina my locker. Like, I was able to WhatsApp my mom and be on the phone with my mom for an hour, hour and a half straight, just laying in my prison bed talking to my mother. You know, even though I wasn't there for her, I was still able to share with her.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful. I'm grateful because for whatever reason, Shalina needed to do what Shalina needed to do when Shalina needed to do it. And I don't know the whys. All I know is that I'm grateful because I know that my mom had a good passage, and, you know, I was there. I may not have been there physically, but I was there spiritually through my mother and my daughter. So, you know, it's like in life, we can't stress on the lessons, right? We just got to learn from them and you know, and appreciate them so they become blessings and keep it pushing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I just want you to know that it was an honor to be able to play my position and be there for them. Like, I don't take it lightly, the fact that I got to pick up my grandmother and hold her in her arms while she took her last breath and just speak positive affirmations over her, you know? So I never want anybody to, like, look at it like, oh, you just had so much and da-da-da-da-da, and I can't believe you had to go through that. Like, I'm truly honored that I was picked to go through that.
But a lot of
you
people
know?
don't even have the chance to go through that. Like,
Exactly.
It does. I don't feel like it should be looked at as a negative thing.
Exactly.
Because
That's my thing.
Yeah, like, it should be looked at like you were able to do it and you did it.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's a blessing in itself because some people don't have that chance to even be able to do that.
Well, you know what's crazy is, like, you know, and I always go back to thinking back because I did so much time in solitude being locked up during COVID. I was locked up in my cell for 23 hours a day, right? So the only thing I had was my books and my thoughts, right? So I would think back and I was like, you know what? Burgundy is like, it's like legacy. Like, you know, down to your great grandmother, Jay Shell, down to the Kennedy name. Like, you know what I'm saying? Down to us, Shalina. Like, it's like the greatness of these women that, like, you know what I'm saying? That came, like the Jacksons. Like, you know, it's like Burgundy is like so many people, it was just like love. You know, it was like, it wasn't like competition. I feel like my generation more, like, obviously I can't speak for other generations, but like my brother and us, I feel like as we started making money, because I didn't see that with my uncles and stuff, like I saw more unity with them. Like, they were all making money, they were all happy for each other. Obviously, I don't know the bullshit that went on in between because I was a kid or whatever, but for us, like, it was like a competition. Like, you know, it's like everybody wanted to do better than the next one. Everybody wanted to floss on the next one. Everybody, like, you know, and it was like, what happened to our unity? What happened to our, like, well, I'm your nigga, you got that Lexus, I'm happy for you, bro. Like, I don't want to slice your tires. I don't want to scratch up your car. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to take your pager or your phone. Like, I'm genuinely happy for you, like, for real. But I feel like the people that were born in, I guess, the late 70s they just got so like red eye and malicious. I don't know, because
Crab in a bucket.
you know, a lot of the people I grew up with that were killed and everything, it was their friends that killed them. It was like people like we grew up in this like the older guys, it was like people from other areas killing people. Like, you know what I'm saying? But when I was growing up within Bergs, it was like the Burgundy man killing the Burgundy man.
Yeah.
That's
I was
crazy.
like, what the fuck's going on? Like, yo, ain't that your boy? Like, you know,
Ain't that your friend?
Ain't that your friend?
But it's like it became so crazy because you have to understand, like, for us growing up, everybody in the hood, if they didn't have one parent getting high on crack, they had both parents getting high on crack. Like, one of your parents was getting high, and it was like the whole hood. Like, it was like
So
like how
crazy.
everybody smokes weed. It was like everybody was smoking crack. Like, because they didn't know, right? We can't judge them and be like, They didn't fucking know it's a new drug. It's like when ecstasy came out. I did ecstasy. Like, you know what I'm saying? I made sure I watched the people that was doing it. I was like, okay, they okay. The next day, oh, they good? Oh, okay. And they like,
Let me try that.
Let me take some of that.
yeah, only because I seen what crack did to us. But you know, my friend that I did ecstasy with the first time, she didn't do no drugs. Like she didn't smoke weed, she didn't do any drugs or whatever. And she's like, you roll? I was like, bitch, you know I smoke weed all day. What you talking about? I roll. And she's like, no, bitch, ecstasy.
Like, are you
like,
rolling? I'm rolling.
I was like, ecstasy. And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, you do it? And she's like, every now and then. So I'm like, well, if you do it, I'll try it. She broke it in half and she gave me a piece. I was like, ooh.
That was me and Savannah.
They blame me for bringing it to the hood, but I don't give a fuck because we had some fun.
They sure did. They're like, Nine got the Transformers.
Sure did, and the Buddhas.
That is hilarious. I just think it's so ironic. I wanted you to tell this story simply because of the fact that you do have a news article out now. The time you were in the shoe for catching
You know,
COVID.
it's so crazy because my question was just about to be like, so have you ever been to the shoe? like, can we just touch on like, have you ever been in solitary confinement?
Yeah, I've been to the shoe 2 times. The first time I went to the shoe was for COVID. So we tested the beginning. Let me just give you the intro, and you guys can edit it however you want. But so COVID, we're locked down, right? We're like coming out. They have us have us coming out in tiers. So tiers are basically like from room 1 to room 110. They come out from this time to that time, so they can come out, shower, use the computer because we do emails to our family, or use the phone, get food, get hot water or whatever to make their food or whatever. They probably get out for like 45 minutes, you know? And then then they go in, and then the next tier. So they let you go in tiers from like room 1 to like 20 people at a time, basically. So during this time was during the Delta, when the Delta strain was out. So at that time, they weren't letting us come out in tiers. We were coming out in sections. We were coming out in tiers, bottom tier and top tier. So it was Juneteenth. Mr. Strotter, this gay fucking officer, he comes in and everything. He's like, yeah, I was in Miami. You know, it's open in Miami for Juneteenth. He's like, yeah. She was like, the boys. Like, you know, we're all talking and everything. Because you got to be cool with the officers. Like, if you don't want the officers to fuck with you, you got to be cool with the officer. I'm cool. Like, I had a couple of officers. Like, I had this one officer where I had to, like, she kept fucking with me, and then she became our officer again. I was like, yo, I can't even do this because this bitch want to search my fucking room, like send me to the bench. Like, she was just always on me, you know? Mm-hmm. So I was like, at this point, I'm like 3 years into my spiritual books and everything. I'm like, you know what? Let me address this. I go to her, I'm like, yo, Miss Williams, I know you and I must have started off on a bad foot, and I know I could be overbearing. I know I'm loud. I know, like, you know, but I just want to apologize if there's anything that I did to make you feel any type of way, and I think that maybe we could start over from where we left off. And the bitch didn't bother me once. So sometimes you gotta, like, swallow your pride and put your ego aside, you know? Because I know I didn't do anything. The bitch just didn't like me because I was pretty and she was an ugly bitch. But So we're all talking to him or whatever, and then the next day he comes in the office. He comes in for his shift, and he's in his office like this on the desk. So like, you know, and he's like a motherfucker. He does his rounds every 30 minutes. He's doing his round. He's making sure nobody's in nobody else's cell. Nobody's smoking. Nobody's drinking. Like, you know, he's on it. Like, you ain't gonna be fornicating, drinking, smoking, doing anything you're not supposed to be doing on my shift. Like, that's how Strider was. Like, you know. So I'm like, I go and I'm like, yo, you good? He's like, I don't know. So I go and I bring him like a hottie toddy of like lemon and tea and everything. Girl, next thing I know, the whole fucking unit is sick.
Jesus Christ.
They come and do COVID tests. They do COVID tests. 33 of us tested positive for COVID. They made us pack our shit up in garbage bags, we thought we were going to another unit, like a quarantine unit, just where they're going to keep the sick people together and like, you know, the people that weren't sick separate. No, they put us in the motherfucking shoe. And they put us in a section in the shoe that hadn't been open in like years. So the water was brown. It was like filthy, dusty, dirty. It was disgusting. It was horrible. I mean, it was so bad that when I was in there for like 3 days. I think when I finally spoke to Shalina and I was telling Shalina, I was like, they're not doing anything. I'm like, in here, I'm sick. I don't have my commissary. I can't eat the food they're giving us. We're so sick and this. I can't get my medication. Like, they got all of my property and da-da-da-da. So Shalina started calling up the prison and they wouldn't give Shalina any information and share what my beautiful daughter did for her mother.
Yeah, they wouldn't. So I basically was calling everything and they're like, we can't give you anything. She's okay. Da, 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 da. And that's like as far as they could go. And I'm like, no, like I know that she's in the shoe and I know that you have 30 other girls down there in the shoe and that you're treating them inhumane, you know? And they're like, oh, nothing. And they would hang up on me. Like literally every time I would call, they would hang up. So I was like, you know what? I got something for you. I called again and I was like, hi, I'm a news reporter from da-da-da. I looked up a news area in Alabama. I was like, yeah, I'm a news reporter from da-da-da-da. And I'm writing an article because I heard that you guys have 30 girls in the unit, da-da-da-da, and I need to talk to the warden. And da-da-da-da. And I got on the phone with the warden finally, and I said, you guys are treating them inhumane. They don't even have the proper necessities to just be treated like basic human beings. Like, and I just want you to know that I'm writing a story and I wanted your comment. So what's your comment? And probably like a couple hours later, my mom called me.
Yeah, they came in full throttle, baby. The warden, the doctor, the nurses, they all had on like what made me so mad is like they treated us like we were fucking dog shit. They didn't even treat us like we were dog. They treated us like we were dog shit. Okay? And they came in with their face masks, like you would think,
so
bitch, we have not left this compound. So who brought the COVID here? That's what I said to the warden. I'm like, who brought the COVID here? Because we haven't left. We have been, like, y'all leave and leave us on the compound and let us run shit. Okay, during COVID. How about that? We don't need a babysitter because that's all y'all is doing. And he's like, well, somebody had a visit in your unit and they brought back COVID. I was like, that's funny because the person who had the visit is not even in here. She didn't even test positive. So
yeah, and I said that too.
But she got us all sick. And then they started talking about, oh, we want to go back on the compound. We need to get vaccinated. I was like, I'm not getting vaccinated. Out of the 33 of us that are back here, 28 are vaccinated.
Yeah.
So what are you trying to say?
Yeah. And that's how I got them too. I was like, I have recordings.
Back here, 28 are vaccinated.
I'm like, I have recordings of officer this and officer that, and I was playing them the recordings of them talking to me like shit, like, you know. So I was just like, so miss, can I please have your comment? Because your correctional officers are not doing their due diligence, you know, and they're not talking to the family members of the loved ones of the incarcerated people like they should be talking to them. So.
And then me, I'm like, with my big mouth, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, my daughter has Miss Williams on recording, and because there was another Miss Williams, because they're all related. She was this big one, Knock Me. When she walked, her knees knocked, so we called her Knock Me Williams. Right? So Knock Me Williams, like, you know, so I'm like, I have her on recording, and someone told her. So every time she worked the unit, she would fuck with me, like, you know, and I'm like, yo, I'm like, why are you, like, literally, so, you know, allow contraband, like, you know, so if you alter your clothes or like Shalina, I have sent stuff home for Shalina, you know, that like sweaters and stuff. So anything you have altered, anything you have that's not on commissary, whatever, these officers can take and throw in the garbage, you know? So, and then, you know, we make pillows, you know, we stuff our beds, like, you know, but I know I've learned through being incarcerated that they're lazy. So I stuff my bed, but then I sew it. I sew the mattress because I know they're not gonna go. They can't take my mattress because there's a shortage on mattresses. But I know they'll take my stuffing. But they're not gonna go the extra step to like unstitch it. And so I sew the mattress and then I fucking tie the sheets. I had like 3 sheets on my bed tied. I ripped the seam. I put holes in that shit and I tie that bed down. Trust me, one officer, Miss Johnson, and she fucks with me. Like she was like we was okay, like, you know. But she was just on a rampage and she was going to prove a point. And she went in my cell for like 45 minutes. I said, oh, this bitch taking my mattress. Like, you know, I'm like, she got me. Like, you know, I'm like, she got me. And she comes out, like, she opens up the door and she, like, comes out and she's sweating. She's like, oh, Haynes, she's like, you good. She's like, but you know what? I got them blankets because I had like 3 blankets, 3 sheets. You're only allowed 2 of each. She's like, I got them blankets, I got them sheets, and I got that stuffing. She's like, She's like, I was like, wow, for real, Miss Johnson, and she got me. Like, but she had to work to get me. It took 45 minutes.
45 minutes, exactly. Yeah, undo all that.
Yeah.
So, before we close out, I just want to highlight on in the article they talk about your watch that you got on commissary that you're wearing right now. What's the meaning behind that?
Well, you know,
I'm glad you. Because you said that's the only thing you took home. I said, why?
Cost me $100 on commissary, and you know I could have sold it before I left for $300. You know, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wear this watch until I can replace it with my Rolex or my Breitling or whatever high-end watch when I'm there, when I'm at the place where I'm supposed. But until then, I'm gonna wear it as a reminder to the time that I left behind, the time that my bad decision, you know, cost me time with my children. It's a constant reminder of the time that, you know, I put into being away from my family and everything. Even though it made me a better person, I still lost moments that I can't get back. So it's just a reminder.
So yeah, can you give us any of your final thoughts or comments that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I'm sure, you know, people read the article, they have an opinion of me, or if they read my book, they might have an opinion. And you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not going to try to change your opinion of me, but I am me, and I made those choices. The choices that I made during the time, with the mentality I had at that time. The person that sits here in front of you guys today, I wouldn't have made that choice. I would have made a different choice because I know better now. You know, I've been through it. And that's the whole purpose, you know, rehabilitation of prison. So I'm grateful because I now hold myself accountable, you know, for things. I know about forgiveness. I don't harbor any ill will towards anybody who, you know, I wronged me. And I pray that, you know, people that may feel like I wronged them can, you know, give me forgiveness as well. Because at the end of the day, the people that harbor onto ill feelings, it's only affecting you because yeah. But and just, you know, make better choices coming forward. I just want to live a good, passionate, purposeful life with my family and my loved ones.
I love that.
That's it.
Just so you guys know, she has an article on CBC News, and just my final thoughts. I mean, you guys can share yours, but for me as your daughter, I just want you to know that I am so proud of you. I'm so honored to be your firstborn. And even with all the lessons that you're turning into blessings, I don't want you to feel no type of way or think about nothing. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm honored that this is an article out about you. And it's like, you know, you made bad decisions, you took accountability, and you're changing your life. You know, you have a whole book coming out. A lot of people want to write a book.
Yes, The Runner, Tripped by the Fed.
Yeah, and what's this? You said, what's your little quotation thing up here? It says, growing up around the hustle, drug dealers, pimps, and prostitutes maybe want more than just the money and the fame. That's real.
Well,
That's
make
real
sure
because you know what? That's what, most people want the spotlight.
Yeah.
Like, most people want to show, like, I got the bling, I got the cars, I got the trips, I got the this. I don't want to show anything.
Yeah.
I just want to enjoy life with the people I love and the people that love me. And we could do that in a cardboard box.
Absolutely.
So, and, for me, obviously, nobody wants to struggle and nobody wants to go hungry.
Absolutely.
And I was living a certain lifestyle and I continue to live that lifestyle by any means. And, now I realize that I can still attain that lifestyle, but just legally and properly this time.
Yeah.
That way it will last forever.
Look, I'm proud of you because they wanted to give you 32 years and you didn't snitch on nobody. It's not like you're in an article for snitching or nothing like that.
No,
so,
I wasn't bred like that. I mean, come on.
Downtown, baby.
Bred like that. It's not in my DNA. It's not in my DNA.
So I love that.
Well, guys, as we're closing out, make sure that you guys do go purchase the runner Trip by the Feds. We will add it on the link below, the Amazon link. Make sure you go support. And who knows? Maybe if you say that you're a Cabernet&Chaos bestie, you might be able to get a signed copy.
Oh yeah.
So who knows? Maybe never know.
I love it.
So make sure you guys.
Possible.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys check it out. We'll also add the CBC article as well to
the description. You'll find all the links in the description. Yeah.
But thank you guys for watching. We
I'm not a
appreciate it.
gun smuggler.
She's more than that.
She's more than that.
Right?
She's a vegan Jamaican Canadian Trump supporter.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share this episode. Thank you so much for coming
let's
on.
get it to Trump. Let me get a pardon, baby.
Oh, before we close out, Tim, I just want you to know, if you're watching this, Mr. Tim, I rehabilitated my life.
Who's Tim?
It may not be the way that you wanted me to rehabilitate my life behind them bars, but guess what, baby? I did that. So I thank you.
Yes.
I thank you, Tim. So.
Fuck Tim, Trump, give her a pardon, please.
Let's get a restart,
Yeah, everyone deserves a second, third, fourth, and
real
fifth chance.
recognize real. You know what I'm saying?
Give her a pardon.
Real
Give her a pardon.
We
You can do it for NBA YoungBoy. You can do it for him.
Who else? He did it for freaking
Kodak Black.
and Larry Hoover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Larry
like,
Hoover.
If
Okay?
you does that make you into a real one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Larry Hoover. Yeah.
But he's still in jail.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Okay,
what I'm
guys.
saying. Like, at the end of the day, man,
Oh.
we run things.
Things not on we. Oh, but you forgot. Tell a friend.
Bless.
So make sure you guys tell a friend to tell a friend.
LG.
Oh, she's still going. She's throwing up the gang sign.
Okay, guys. No, make sure you guys tell a friend to tell a friend,
To tell a blood clot friend.
so we could all be friends. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Thank you
Absolutely.
guys for watching and
And
stay
drink
tuned
some
for another
wine, 'cause it's
episode.
chaos.
Cheers.
Cheers.